Hello there, and welcome to episode 17 of my tutorial series for Songs of SYX version 66. So today we are going to cover how to set up an army and keep it running. So this will be the main topic of today's episode. Also, I want to mention that we are, as a matter of fact, getting closer to the completion of this tutorial series. Yeah, we really do. So there will be only a few more episodes up ahead. I can't really tell if it's going to be 1, 2, or 3, but we are getting closer to the end of the things you need to know to master this game. Congratulations. So we are currently working our way up to conquer a region. So our ambassadors from the 2 episodes before have now found out how powerful the people at this place are, and we're going to use 2 of our further ambassador points wherever we see the lowest population count around us. So however you want to pull it off, it really depends a lot on the world you are currently living in, because the game generates very different worlds every single time. It would be no shame at all to just grind up enough money to buy Darfin. You could also just conquer your personal Darfin, but I would always recommend to leave at least one trade partner open, because it is really bad if you are all out just in war and all out of trade options, because you see, it would make the earning of money a lot harder. Or at least for a beginner. Nothing that you can't resolve after you have now so many ways and means how to do things. I did set up a grain farm between this and the previous episode, because we just need one. We need to upgrade our bread production, because currently we just don't have enough production ahead of time anymore. And that is where this is kicking in. But luckily for what we are going to do, we're not going to need any more of these workers. We can just leave these guys at what they're doing and start talking about how to set up and gear up armies. So just let me give a crate for those shields. So first up, to set up an army, we need to click here into the sword thingy, and then you can configure your army. Your army can consist out of mercenaries. That's the method that I'm going to use later down the road in this series. There's the method of joining troops out of your city. That is directly bringing your citizens into the army menu. And there is the recruitment of local soldiers. Obviously, this is only something you can do once you have a realm to call your own. The most important thing is that these people will be needing supplies. You see up here what kind of supplies. And this is a pretty big list, isn't it? So most of the things that we see here, though, we already know how to supply these. It's also, as a matter of fact, only necessary to bring furniture and machinery, I'm sorry, if you want to bring a higher amount of catapults. Catapults just do what you would expect them to do. They're excellent at banging down walls. So the bigger your enemy, the faster the siege will go, the more catapults you have. But it's a resource thing. All of the other things, we already know how to produce them. I mean, in this city in particular, I am undersupplying clothing and Piva, but yeah, you see, it's a tutorial city. I haven't upgraded the numbers on so many fronts. I'm very sorry about that. But there are rations. These are the only good that we are not producing yet. And this is one of the topics that I want to cover in this episode as well. So for now, we're going to wait until that farm is ready. So we now know that our army, once it is raised, will require a lot of supplies. We luckily don't need to bring up any food whatsoever in any other form than rations. That is a pretty good thing, because that means we don't need to oversupply too heavily. We can even configure our people to not eat any rations whatsoever, so these can be used for the army. I'd even recommend you to not allow them to eat rations after the beginning of the game. At the beginning of the game, it is decent to have them because you are needing some food, obviously. But yeah, but after that, rations are, in my book, for the army or for exports. So rations are made at the ration maker. Huh, what a surprise. So we can make rations out of all manner of different foods. They all have two things in common. Oh, that's a new recipe. Version 66 has spliced it up. So there's actually 3 methods now. So as you can see here, bread is eligible to be transformed into rations directly. The other 2 recipes do require fruit booze or herbs. So herbs are the material which allows you to transform food into rations, and by now we can even transform fish into rations, which is amazing because dried fish has always been a thing. Wonderful. But it all comes down to us needing a herb farm. So this is where things get nasty. This is just one of the least productive industries that exists in the game. There is no less productive farming method compared to herb farming, and therefore, well, I'll show you just what I mean. So we are going to employ 13 people here, and we'll just crank out 13 pieces of herb a day. That's that, with fertility of 93%. We also have to invest quite heavily into a starting setup of herbs, which is also a pretty costly good, by the way. The good part about that is, well, you can use these as sort of a income source without any bigger issues, because that stuff is just, as you see there, it's wild how much, how hard it is to produce. And export-wise, 300 cost us 15,000, so, well, price per unit is 51, so that is not too bad at all. I mean, I personally think that it is not the best idea to export your herbs in any point of the game, but before you are not producing anything with them, just export them. Yes, that's absolutely smart. So we are going to make it a bit different. 2 crates for that, and 2 crates for the rations. There we go. And now we set up the ration maker. I'll bring that building up here in this vicinity. Should be decent enough. So I'm not going to overdo it because we're here mostly for the demonstration's sake. Most of the things that I've been introducing in the previous episodes are under scale for the needs of the later stages of the game. I'm just doing small demonstration things here. I'll leave it up to your own imagination how brutally you want to upgrade that or not. So one thing is, though, sure, your ration maker only can make rations out of one type of food at a time. So workshops in Songs of Six can only have one recipe active at the same time, so to speak. So you have to decide what kind of food you want to turn into rations. That's what it boils down to. But it is... let's suspend that job for now. It is totally okay to use the food types that your people don't like. For example, in our situation, it would be a very, very smart choice to double check on our fish production. We could now easily just forbid the food consumption totally of fish and just decide that we're going to transform our entire fish production into rations. You know what? That's exactly what we're going to do. So we're going to forbid the fish now from this point. And, well, we're producing 1.5 pieces of fish a day. Let's see how that'll work out. But first, let's wait until our workers are ready. I also do notice that we really have a lot of deaths. That is because our city is now in the age where people are just dying like flies. That is one of the hidden caveats of the human race, but it is easily mitigatable by just bringing up enough places where you can bury your dead. So In situations like these, by the way, the side menu here proves to be invaluable because you can't just cycle through the buildings of your city. So at this point, I really think I'll be just doubling down on my crypts, or crypt industry should flourish at this point, as we have tons of cut stone available. It also showcases quite nicely how important it is to have at least some cut stone production, even if your city clearly isn't building the most pompous cut stone buildings of them all. There is always some sort of a need for that stuff in your cities, and yeah, you get it, I guess. Well, currently we also have a lack of things getting done here. There is a neat little trick that you can use if this ever happens to you, because it will happen quite often when your city is growing larger. So there is the workstation. So the workstation binds a couple of odd jobbers just in the vicinity. That's all what it does. You can increase the radius of it. In our scenario, let's do that like this. And, oh, you don't need to put up several of them because you can now set up several workers. Wonderful. So we are going to delete this, and we are going to tell 10 of our odd jobbers to work here in the vicinity. And as you can see, immediately our work gets done. But as you can also see, the radius of these workstations is rather slim, but these prove to be invaluable tools for every kind of situation like this. Because what can I say? You will run into these situations more and more often the larger your city grows, because it is really hard to keep your odd jobbers centralized to do things wherever you want to see them done, as these guys are picking up jobs left and right. So it's a nice little thing that I love to use, and I felt like now's just the right time to showcase it. So our armies will be supplied via army supply depots. So the really nasty thing about that is that these are really, well, I'll show you. So first of all, they come in various sizes. The larger the army grows, the more of them you will need. They also bind workers because they just are another form of storage. So I'll be setting up one of them bad boys here. Okay, so here goes. Each and every one of these storages has only one good it can store. I'm not really convinced that this is the wisest thing that they do, but they work like that. I'd strongly wish for a form of army supply depot that I could unify, but whatever, that's wishful thinking. Well, how it works is you need a supply depot for each and every good that your armies shall receive. So that means, in a grand total, for a fully geared out army that would utilize all of the goods, you'd be needing a dozen supply depots. Quite enough by now. These things, though, will supply your army autonomously. They are pretty fast set up, as you can see, and they pull stuff from the warehouses around you. So, all in all, this is an excellent way of making sure that you have everything on your armies that you need. This also doesn't mean that you will need a tremendous amount of wares to just supply your armies, because all of the items that we have on an army, they have wear and tear. That means degradation of gear is a thing. All of these things need to be resupplied regularly onto your army. This is basically the late game challenge of yours. When you want to conquer the world, you need to supply that stuff. You will also get a yearly consumption rate of these things displayed here, so that at least is something that you can foresee how much you will need. Basically, it's pretty simple. The larger your army, of course, the more of these things you will need. But you won't need that to begin with the whole army building shtick, because at the beginning of all that, I personally think starting out with a couple of mercenaries is much more effective than any other method that you could could take at that point. Okay, so we have our grain farmers here, and the ration maker can be set up any second. I'm just not activating the ration maker before the herb farm is constructed because I don't want the ration maker accidentally pull away workers from that, material from that. So let's activate it now. Like this. So, thanks for the rations. So the Jalopy had the kindness to give us some rations. Alright, I'm going to delete this warehouse because it is just... You don't need to know more about the mechanics about that. These guys will pull that from warehouses and they will deliver it to the army autonomously. You don't need to do more than that as far as I know. If something has changed that I have forgotten about, please let me know in the comment section. I'll see that this will be corrected. But either way, you will be not needing that immediately. But I strongly recommend you nevertheless to set up a ration industry because it is just extremely profitable. Because rations as they are if you don't even care about an army, are just a very, very powerful export good. So here we have again a wonderful ways and means for us to gain money out of a late game mechanic way before it becomes important. Because now we can export rations or herbs just as we'd see fit. So finally the ration maker is ready and we're going to work on that fish. So, let's see. Ah, yeah. The fish has disappeared again into the food stalls. Like I said before, only because it is not allowed to be eaten does not mean that your people won't be carrying it in there. But apparently, well, whatever. So, let's see how this weighs out. I have the slight feeling as if we're not even remotely producing enough fish. So yeah, we'd be needing way more fish then. But as of right now, I also don't really want to spend any of my food as we are currently on a very critical point of war. Development here, especially since the drought has hit town, so our new farming enterprises will come out really, really bad, much worse than we've anticipated. Such things happen. You always have to be ready for that, and this is why I always keep telling you guys, be careful about the speed of your expansion. So we are going to export herbs now, just like I have mentioned. That's fun. So we're only going to export the upper 10%. So our farm is going to be able to fill the warehouses before that stuff goes out of town. It's just for me unbearable to see that these things are not being used. So let's get back to the rations. I just want to showcase that rations are insanely valuable. So we're just going to export for starters all the rations. Yeah, it's a little bit heavy, but I need money. I need to pay those mercenaries eventually somehow. And now I also meant to cover a little bit of a topic today in this episode as well. We need to crank up our food a little bit, and therefore we also need to crank up the industries that are connected with that. So we're going to invest a few more charcoalers, but I figured that when it comes down to the bakeries, we're going to work now and check out how we can change things up. One thing that we should absolutely do is finally use coal instead of wood, as we really have enough coal production at that point. The coal-fired bakery is just faster. It therefore is again a nice upgrade. The second upgrade for the bakery, I'd strongly recommend you to rather build a new bakery before you go the other way around, as I really think you gain more out of that if you just set up a second one of these. So here we go. This is basically resulting in, I don't know, I think it should be in net total the same production. I don't really know where the differences in this are. Technically, if it goes faster, we should produce more, but according to the equation here, we don't. Well, let me know in the comment section if you know more about that than I do. Either way, we have now a extra improved grain farm production, theoretically, but practically we don't, because we have been hit by a drought. So, armies are, apart from that, they don't need more than what I've shown you there. It is that simple. Most combat in the game also can be automatically resolved. I hope that I can get some combat footage somewhere together. I'll really work on it, but I don't want to make any false promises here. Alright. But, yeah. That's pretty much what it is. I don't really have that much more to add into this topic. From here on, we are now working on setting up our embassies to find out who is going to be easy to conquer. But I do think that I have already found my victim, and that's going to be my Kryptonian neighbors. So we're going to put up all our emissary points in there. All the ones that we got. Whoopsie, that was not what I wanted to do. Here, that's that. And we're going to keep spying on them. Meanwhile, we're going to earn enough money to just hire enough mercenaries to just take over that place. I just want to showcase that this is not that easy. When we check out these guys, they have a power of 128, so we need to pay upfront 150,000 denarii, but we also will have to supply them with an upkeep of 77,000 denarii afterwards for, I think, every week, every season, something like that. The good news is they will be more powerful enough to conquer the environment for us, and that will be, though, the topic for the next upcoming episode. Today, I just wanted to introduce to you the infrastructure that you will be needing. This infrastructure of the army export depots does work, as far as I know, for locally raised armies as well. I say as far as I know because I have never sent a locally city-raised army anywhere. Never done that because I just haven't had an opportunity to do so. So, my friends, I'll be cutting today's episode a tad bit shorter than usual because, you know, I don't want to mix in this topic now of battle because I will need to grind up a lot of money before we can get there, because currently we just don't have that type of money available. And now, well, it'll be just a very grindy experience where I'm waiting for that money to spawn. I'll be notching the city around a little bit here and there, but all in all, congratulations. You now know most of the things necessary to know in Songs of SYX to manage a city. We are missing out on the combat segment, but city development-wise, there is really not that much more that we've been missing out so far. The other services that I haven't researched out here, you know, there is tourism and massage parlors and barbershops, but I don't think I need to explain anything further because you guys know already how it'll work. The only thing that I haven't explained here yet are universities. Universities will make your people more efficient at what they do because they can gain their even more education, with the downside of binding the people every now and then on their educational work. So altogether, you basically sacrifice some work time for an increase of efficiency in their professions. But yeah, we have already covered pretty much all of the important things in the game. and therefore I don't really know what I should be adding on top of that. So next episode, we're going to conquer the world, and I'm going to show you how administration and all those things work. And, well, let's see what will happen in between. Drop me your comments, leave me a thumbs up, consider subscribing, check out the description box. There is a lot of links to go around. The rest of the tutorial series is hanging out there as a playlist link. There is also a playlist link to my shorter tutorials, and of course there is Discord, Twitch, and ways and means to support this channel directly financially. I'd be really happy if you'd be checking it out. A big thanks to the supporters of Icon Gaming. I really appreciate you guys. And a big thanks to you watching this video until the very end. You guys don't know how much that actually means to me. And feel free to let me know in the comment section why you are watching these videos really up until the very end. I'm really curious, genuinely. So, see you guys there, and have a good one.